All right. Welcome. We're officially beginning our second TMTA Lunch and Learn series, session 2, create your brand for a competitive edge and know when the time is right. Question. Hi, Ken. Good to see you. Are you hearing an echo? Can you raise your hand if you're hearing an echo at all? Okay, good. All right. So what we want to do is we want to start with a review of what we're going to cover today, and then review what we're going to, an overview of what we're going to cover. Bill?
Yeah, deal with the phone, sorry.
Today, what we're going to cover, we want to define a brand, go over that quickly, that we're all on the same page. 5 signs when it's time to rebrand. This is a big question we get from people. 4 red flags when it's not time to rebrand. We don't want you to do it at the wrong time or for the wrong reasons. Logo design pitfalls to avoid. This is so that you straight across, you know what to expect. And then your brand toolbox. If you decide you want to rebrand and change the brand, the face, the identity of your business, what you're going to need so that you're fully equipped. In review of what we covered last week, this is just a template for the brand blueprint. Last week, we talked about and defined a brand in more detail about how the brand is not the logo. It is, that's just the tip of the spear. It's the face of your business is your logo. The brand is so much more. It's what people see, feel, hear, experience when they're doing business with your company. So from how someone answers the phone to the invoice, the product, delivery times, all of it, your look and feel, messaging, and that's what we're talking about today is your look and feel. These aspects of your brand that go on the brand blueprint are the intangible pieces, like your core values, and your mission and your vision and how you talk about your company, what sets you apart. It's the language that you use. It's the way you train employees so that, hey, this is how we do it here. So we showed you an example as well of Kirk's brand blueprint last week. If you missed last session, you can get the recording and listen to it again. We told the story of Kirk's 75 years in the business and how they had such a strong culture and employee loyalty, and why they rebranded, what struggles they needed to overcome in their rebranding. And this brand blueprint captured all of those intangible pieces. How do we train people? What do we talk about? What's really important to us when people are doing business with us? And then how to say what we do in one sentence. So that was a fun story to cover last session. But this is the foundation for what we're going to talk about today. Once we have, and you have in your business, these pieces, these abstract pieces of your brand, then we move into developing a design, a feel for your company that reflects these messages. So why that Kirk's logo is what it is now was impacted through this brand blueprint development. So I hope we're pretty clear on what a brand is. There are the tangible pieces of your brand, your logo, your website, your building, vehicle graphics, anything that you could touch, see, or feel. And then there are the intangible pieces, how people experience your brand. So Bill, you can take it away with our, oh no, I'm going to keep talking. We want to talk about this research with Princeton University. And it kind of sets the stage for talking about your brand identity or your logo, as people will call it. Princeton University researchers asked respondents to judge whether they could trust somebody based on their face. So they put pictures of people on a conveyor belt, strangers, and they would have them press a button, trust, don't trust, trust, don't trust. And that's what they do. See the stranger, don't trust this person, trust this person. So when we'll put it out to an audience, for the sake of time, we'll not do it now, but we've done this with hundreds of people. We put it out there and say, how long do you think it takes for people to decide whether they trust a person or don't trust a person? And we'll get answers anywhere from a second to 3 seconds. And overwhelmingly, people, that's generally where they're at. Well, it actually, they found it took 1/10 of a second. 1/10 of a second for people to just glance at that picture of a stranger and trust, don't trust. Then when they were allowed to look again and say, okay, take your time. We just stop the conveyor belt. If you want to change your mind, you can change your mind. Overwhelmingly, they stayed with their first impression because first impressions are lasting impressions. So to show you how this works, if the logo is the face of a business, they were judging whether they could trust on a face. Imagine that this is your company's conference room and it's Friday morning and you have VIP prospects coming in for a proposal. You're going to pitch it Monday morning and the walls are a mess and they need to be painted. You need on Friday someone to come in by Monday morning and have this place looking beautiful. And you can choose from 2 painters. And the only thing information you have is their logos. So here we go. You're going to be Princeton University researchers, face of the business. Would you go with company A or company B? Okay.
B.
So what did I hear? Anna?
B.
B.
B?
B.
B? Don't be afraid if someone wants to go with A. Did someone say A? No one said A. So the majority always picks B. Every now and then we get someone in the audience who will pick A. And a lot of times it's cultural. They'll think a crown is royal. Or here's the fun part. They'll say, I think they're going to be cheaper. So the point of this is to show that a logo does create an impression. There were reasons, subliminal, unconscious reasons why you were choosing the one you chose. There are structural reasons, design principles. The first one, A, that's a script or the font is for copywriting. It's not a title font, so it makes it difficult to read. And there are fine lines in it, which will make it difficult to embroider. It's also old. It's an older version, so it doesn't come up as crisp and clear. B is bold, strong, with color. There's a descriptor line that says commercial, residential, industrial. You know right away these guys can do it. We've had people respond with, I think company B will be more expensive, but we need it done right. Company B is more professional. And there was one woman who just shouted out from the back of a room at a Better Business Bureau event. She said, I think company A is going to have rusty vans in my parking lot, and I don't want that there all weekend. So that's the point. Now you can see just the power that a logo, just the face of a business, has on the impression we're making. And companies are leveling up. We've just been trained by companies in the consumer market to expect more from a company that looks better. Well, that is translating into the industrial space as well. We got that training in us, and that's the same thing is happening in that score.
Very good. So we're ready to move on into the 5 signs and the 4 red flags for when is it time to rebrand. We've, over the course of being in business, we've had people ask us, when is it a good time to rebrand? When is it a good time to update your logo? And it's a really good question that people have, because if you are considering a rebranding and updating your company logo, we've come up with 5 signs or indicators that will help you know when it is a good time, and then 4 red flags that let you know when it is not a good time to rebrand. So the rebranding sign number 1 is changing your business name. Now, if the business name changes, the company identity is obviously going to change. But first of all, you have to ask, why are you changing your business name in the first place? It's no small thing to do this. So depending on the brand equity you have already in the marketplace, and your reasons for changing it. We always recommend, if you can avoid changing your business name, we highly recommend figuring out how to make your current business name work, because it's very involved and complicated, and it impacts you in many different ways. But that said, if you do change your business name, it is definitely time to rebrand. And one example of a name change, or a couple here, is Palace Law. Linda, you want to?
Yes, I'm gonna unmute. Palace Law was a firm that was an all-purpose branding. I'm not branding law. So you could get a divorce, and you could also get your business license through Palace Law. When Matthew Palace took over the company, and that's often another time when people rebrand, is a succession, when second or third generation come in. So Matthew Palace was second generation. He came in and he said, we are going to focus, we're going to niche on landlord tenant law. No one is doing it. It was a very smart move. So when we rebranded with Palace, creating that hidden P with the commercial building and call that a moon or a sun over the background, watching over, guarding that commercial property. Palace Law could introduce with a bold, clear logo. Hey, this is why we've rebranded. This is what we're doing now. So there was a story and a reason for rebranding. And then Midway Engravers needed to rebrand because they had to change their business name because what they were doing had changed. Engraving was no longer what they were doing. They were doing rotary die. The whole look looked old from the 50s. So when we rebranded Midway Rotary Die Solutions, created that cool, crisp symbol, put the new name in the descriptor, and we got such feedback from Midway when they changed, and we did the rollout, the launch, put it out there to their database. We created a new us card, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. The new us, hey, this is why we're rebranding and why it matters to you. They saw an uptick in sales. Their competitors were saying, hey, what's going on over there? They ended up actually doing so much better. They revamped, remodeled their offices with that blue. It just became the theme for the company. A very strong example.
So moving on to the next sign, and that is number 2, that it's time to rebrand. If your logo looks outdated, amateurish, or it's just not distinctive, and we definitely want to be distinctive. But so moving into this, new leadership, when they come on, like a new marketing director or succession or something like that, there's fresh eyes on the company's brand. And this is a perfect time to review whether your company's logo appears outdated or not. And new leadership is going to bring in, they're just naturally going to come in with a refreshed vision and a direction and a purpose. And communicating this to the world with an updated look and a message only strengthens a company's brand. So also, it's not uncommon though for business owners to fear that if they change their logo, people are not going to recognize who they are. We've had that happen, but this is not true, especially if it is rolled out effectively and successfully, because if there's newness going on, you definitely want to communicate that to the world in the right way. So a couple examples of this would include the City of Sterling Heights and ICR Services and more.
The City of Sterling Heights had done this rebranding, I don't know how long ago, but they had spent a lot of time and government money on a survey research because they wanted a 2030 vision. Where are we going to be in 2030? So in 2015, they wanted to do the rebranding, and we did that for them. So when we rebranded, the City of Sterling Heights was to be there to say and send it out to the community, hey, things are moving in Sterling Heights. We worked with them on that slogan. It's a little bit of an off. What do you mean innovating living? Well, their focus was on innovation throughout their history. There's really cool symbolism behind that logo for the City of Sterling Heights, which we won't get into now in that story. but they were, had looked outdated and they really wanted to set themselves apart as the third largest city in Michigan.
Fourth largest, actually.
Well, they were moving up when we did it.
Third largest is Warren.
They want to let us know that we're moving up, you know. So ICR is going to be our example, our story. Last session, we used Kirk's. We want you to see with Michigan companies what is possible. A lot of times, whenever I sat in on branding talks, they're using big names, Pepsi, Apple. Like, we can't relate to that. We're small to medium businesses. So we want to show you how this is possible for small and medium manufacturing companies, well, Sterling Heights a place, but in Michigan, what that impact can be. So ICR is the story we're going to share with you today. And that logo meets a lot of these when it's time to rebrand. The technology was not what they were using. They were all over the map. They weren't using it consistently. The descriptor was changing and it was hard to read. And it just looked old. So when we rebranded with ICR, and we're going to tell you the meaning behind that symbol. And that's really important, we believe, to set you apart and be distinctive for that culture building experience. So why we did these colors and all of that we'll get into too. But ICR now looks like a player in the world. They compete with the big guys. They're in South Africa, Mexico, Canada, and the US. They've got plants. They're global, and they have just taken off with sales and also introducing new product lines, which we'll talk about in the next session.
That's great. Okay, so sign number 3, that it is time to rebrand, that your offerings or your markets have changed. Now, as a company grows, it's going to evolve, and its growth is going to lead to new products, perhaps, or new service offerings, and these are going to lead to new markets, which are going to require new messaging. So for this reason, to rebrand can often be tough for business owners to see, because it happens gradually over time. And people tend to underestimate the power of their company's brand and the potential impact that it can really have, especially on a customer base that's not yet been tapped. So if the business has changed significantly in its offerings and its target audience, it's time to rebrand. And a couple of 2 examples of this are Benito's Pizza and Kirk's, which we talked about last week, which Linda's going to cover right here.
So I want to stop. I saw a chat pop up that someone that was having difficulty with the audio. Is that still? I think that was you, Ken. Are you able to hear okay?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, it's about 25% of the time it just kind of bugs out. I can make out what you're doing. I just was curious if it's just me or everyone else.
Is anyone else having that issue?
I am not having that issue, but I can hear everything okay. It might be on your end, Ken, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not hearing it. I hear you guys great.
Okay.
All right.
Ken,
Thank you.
you call me right after this and we'll fill in the blanks for you.
All right. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Okay, Benito's Pizza is just a fun one to show. Benito's Pizza was, their market was changing in the sense that they were also offering cafes, and their business structure was changing. So they wanted to be very clear about how they were going to work with the franchisees and the company-owned companies. They were another example. They fell into a lot of categories. The logo was being used inconsistently, and it was old, and it was difficult to use in that framework in different applications. They struggled with signage, all kinds of things, because it wasn't thought through ahead. So when we rebranded Benito's Pizza, this is their symbol. There was another version for the longer horizontal orientation, but this was the final beautiful B. I don't know how many B's we created to get that perfect B for Benito's Pizza. And then another example is the story that we referred to last week for Kirk's. Kirk's Automotive was also, their offerings had changed and their markets had changed in this sense, that when they first started 75 years ago, they were doing carburetors for automotive. They were Kirk's Carburetor, then they changed to Kirk's Automotive. And In the 70s, 80s, they started really transitioning toward servicing fleet and transit. So today, fast forward today, they are supplying parts to aftermarket parts to transit organizations across the country. And Kirk's Automotive no longer served them, nor did that logo that kind of has that potato chip feel, like you might find it on a bag of potato chips. So when we rebranded Kirk's, we took that same feel, lost the detail, the apostrophe, did that nice overlap because there were reasons we could talk about that overlapping, making sure right out the gate people see we are not Kirk's Automotive, we are serving transit, fleet, and equipment. Boom. And to get that 1946 in there to show that that builds credibility. That's one of the important things that we can do with really professional branding is establish credibility, trust. This company is going forward. They know what they're doing. Then people can trust you.
Awesome. Okay. The rebranding sign number 4 that your business is, if your business is transitioning through a move, a merger, or an acquisition, or maybe you're selling your business. If you are moving your business to a new location, it's going to require updating everything. If you've ever gone through that, from the stationery to the signage. So before you invest in everything again after your move with the same old logo, ask yourself, hey, how do we look? I mean, as stated in sign number 2, if you do look outdated, this is a perfect time to consider a rebranding. If you're facing a merger, this is going to depend on the structure of the business is joining forces and the naming of it and whatnot, but this no doubt is going to require a rebranding. Informing your clients and your prospects is going to be critical here. They're going to be, it's important to let them know because they're going to be excited about the new change in your business and how it's going to impact them for the better. So if you are merging with another company, it's a great time to rebrand. And then the last transitional reason to consider rebranding is the sale of your business, or if you're being acquired, and that is going to impact. But when selling a business, as with anything, if it's going to be sold, it's going to value higher if its identity is up to date with a professional identity system in place. As in selling anything, really, the valuation of the business is based on the inside and the out, from the ledger to the logo itself. So you want to have a curb appeal for your brand identity because it's relevant and it's going to impact and improve your sale. So in the event that your business is facing any one of these transitional indicators, updating your brand's identity really is highly recommended. And one example we like to show for this is a client of ours, Petrus Orthodontics.
Just before I respond to that, Petrus, about the curb appeal for a sale. So if we're doing our house, we clean up, we paint, we make things look good for that first impression. There's a stat, and I really need to pull it out of my files, that shows that companies that have a brand identity system in place value higher when they're being evaluated for sale. That does add value, just like any system or process that you have established in your business. We look good from the get-go, and then this is how it's applied to our invoices, our trucking, and there's a system and a process for how our brand identity is used. So if any of you guys have ever worked with a large corporation, those standards don't change. That logo is on that business card at this corner from this edge all the time. It never changes. So Bill's going to get into the consistency a little bit. I'm jumping ahead. The Petrus example is a story of Jarek Petrus. He was coming in and purchasing this orthodontics office. So the tooth is a problem. You're going to be logo snobs at the end of this session. You're going to look at dentists with teeth and you're going to go, wow, are we in like the medieval period when people don't know how to read and they see an extracted tooth, and that's what I want to go to a dentist for, is a tooth with roots showing? So this was the orthodontist to correct a smile. And Jarek Petrus is young. He had vision for the company. So he came in and we rebranded Petrus, and they grew very quickly. That's their building. If you drive past it at 12 and Stevenson, it's beautiful at night, it's lit. And he is just outgrowing this already, just maximizing because he's there, he's present and social, connecting with people, and he looks fresh and positive. So we worked with him on that slogan, smile confidently. I know that's not manufacturing, but just to see that the drastic change from the tiny office he started in after he purchased the practice to now he's got this large, brand new, beautiful build out.
Mhm. Very cool. Now, the last sign that it's time to rebrand is an inconsistent brand identity system. And a lot of times when people start out in business, they bootstrap it. They don't even give a thought about branding or making an investment in what they look like or what their message is. You know, and then there's those who, maybe there are some here who started in the days of the yellow pages before the dawn of the internet, and very little thought was given to branding at that time, and customers were a lot less sophisticated than they are nowadays. But then there's many business owners where there is a point where the light goes on and they wake up and they see that their logo looks different everywhere, and it doesn't reflect a consistent brand, and they have no guidelines or understanding on how to keep these things consistent where they're using their logo, and it leads to a weak brand image. So your business looks like what you say, and it's fully within your control. A lot of people don't realize that. And we really encourage businesses, they don't realize how critical it is that they take control and they build and manage their own brand with intention. You know, we see this as the chrysalis for real brand transformation, when that light goes on and they realize, whoa, you know, we do not look as good as we potentially could. So if you've never professionally branded your business per se, in the first place, then you're not going to have a system that's going to help you, you may want to consider a rebrand. And two businesses that we have worked with that found themselves in this same place were Augie's and Turner Electric. So
the story behind Augie's owned by Matt Bazell, and he was doing commercial cleaning services, and he looked like a small janitor's company that would do small facilities. There are a lot of issues with this. Bill's going to get into why. And this is where you become logo snobs. You're going to be like, why is somebody using clip art for a logo symbol? And the gradient in the name is impossible to embroider. And then the janitorial services. So he also falls under the category of a name change. So he wanted to look bold, communicate why he was doing the business he was doing. And when we rebranded Augie's, changed that descriptor to Augie's Building Services. He got a great URL, like Augies.com is available. Do you know how rare that is? Let's get Augies.com. And that the meaning behind, we're going to do the symbol story for Augie's, the story behind this great company. And then Vision Electric is the story, Turner Electric, sorry, we have another Vision Electric. Turner Electric was just starting out, really, and Darren Turner wanted to do commercial services. So that lightning bolt behind this font, there's a lot of reasons why that's a horrible design. And then another thing, like, why would you have an electrician with a lightning bolt coming through? It's like the dentist with a tooth. You know, that's not, it's not a good message. We get it, but we don't want lightning bolts coming through our business. So when we rebranded Turner Electric, it's a nice, clean word mark. And then with his business card, his very first meeting with a prospect was with, I could tell the story in more detail, but a really sharp, serious business guy that owned a lot of rental properties. And he was in a meeting with him and he said, so you guys, you look like you do commercial resident, or you do commercial. Would you do my rentals? Like, he already had this impression that Turner Electric is this established company that does only commercial electric. And he asked if he could do his residential rentals.
very cool.
That first job paid for the rebranding.
Yeah. Yeah, it's It's a great story. So those are the 5 signs it's time to rebrand. Now, equally important, and these will go quicker, are the red flags. And these are really for those who realize the value and the power that branding holds. They really see the value, want to rebrand and see their company rebranded, but they really need to heed these, and you'll see why. So the first red flag is that it's not time to rebrand, that if the owner or the CEO is not on board, if the big boss himself does not think this is important, then don't do it. Because his buy-in or her buy-in is a must. If they oppose the idea, then either help them see the light or don't press it through, because it's critical. A strong brand, first and foremost, has to come from the top all the way down. If the big guy or girl or whatever is not, if they don't see the value in it, then you're going to be spinning your wheels. So that's red flag number 1. Red flag number 2, that it's time or not time to rebrand, is if you're doing it impulsively or on a whim. So a rebrand is a commitment. It is a big project, and it is foundational to the heart and soul of the business. It's not something that's done impulsively. No way. So effective branding is a strategic part of your business's success, and it is a key to a healthy company culture internally. And it takes time to plan out. So you do not want to rush a rebranding. So don't. So the red flag number 3, that it is not time to rebrand, is if all the key decision makers are too busy. And we've seen all these guys. I can't say it enough how important it is for all of the leadership to make the time available to invest in this all too critical process. And it is a process of collaboration, as we'll show you in a sec. It's going to require all decision makers, honestly, to put skin in the game and time, and to dedicate that time necessary to seeing it through to the end. Building this buy-in is going to take some time, but it will be well worth it before you guys rebrand. So make sure everybody's on board and committed before you rebrand. And then the 4th red flag is that it's not time to rebrand, is that there is not a budget for an effective brand rollout. You want to make sure that you think it all the way through, because you want to let the world know about this big change, and it's huge and it's critical and it's important and it's worth celebrating. And not just to let it happen. It's like, oh, they changed the logo. Okay. So, I mean, you make a big deal out of it, and it's going to take time and resources. So make sure you budget for a successful brand launch. It's going to make all the difference if you do move through and do a rebranding. Moving into one that when you're not prepared for the wrong reasons is going to cost you dearly. And if you don't keep these red flags seriously, watch out. A little bit on the lighter side.
So you have a new logo, but you're using the brochures with your old logo? Yep, I put a lot of money into those brochures, but you'll confuse people. Your logo is the face of your business. Yep, they'll never notice. The reason for this Frugal Picasso came out of a story with years ago. We did a branding for a company in Birmingham. They had the money. They didn't want to allocate the money because to a full brand launch, just being too frugal. So the owner said, we did a big printout of 1,000 brochures. We're going to use those brochures with the old logo. Everything about the brochure looked old. The colors weren't the same. The writing didn't have the right messaging. And we're like, oh, every time you use one of those logos, you're just bruising the brochures, you're bruising your brand. It's not the right, you're putting the wrong value on that print. And how long is it going to take you to go through 1,000 brochures? Oh, a few years. So we're like, oh, it's confusing, right? You confuse, you lose. So that's the Picasso story.
Yep. So now as we're moving more into the design side, to just quickly go through some examples of a brand identity. This is my personal favorite part. I love this stuff. So we want to look very briefly at the 4 pillars of a remarkable brand identity. And it's only taken us 30 years, but any logo or brand identity designer who knows this stuff is going to adhere to these principles or something similar. And these we use as a measuring stick of sorts for what we're about to show you. So as in building anything, you need to have a solid foundation, and it starts with collaboration. It is not us coming in telling you what to do. It's a relationship. There's a building, and any good designer is going to come in and they're not going to tell you what to do. They're going to listen to you. They're going to listen to you and ask a lot of questions, gather a lot of information, and then echo that back to make sure they're accurate. And then they're also going to be dig into they're going to do research into your industry and your competitors, and gather a lot of information in the process of doing this. Now, sometimes along the lines of now, we talked about this from a standpoint of when is it time to rebrand? You want to make sure that your business has a solid name, is known in the industry. We tend to avoid acronyms when we're starting out the gate, but sometimes that's unavoidable. You work with those, so there's ways to really make those kick. So anyway, so that is the foundation: collaboration, research, and a strong name. So then, whoops, wrong way. So, and then anything that is going to be designed is going to involve form and function. So relevant and distinctiveness. Relevant means that it means something in the industry. We saw the Petrus tooth, okay? I mean, that idea, that is a default icon that dentists go to. And if you really think about it, it's pretty barbaric, because you're going to rip that tooth out with the roots and everything, and here you go. I mean, the idea is we're just used to it. And distinctive means that it's unique, it's new, or it's not been seen before. So balancing these two is a true talent. So a good logo designer can do this very well. And then function. As with anything, again, designed form and function. So form means it needs to be effective and it needs to be consistent. Effective means scalable, flexible, and it avoids fine details and lines and gradients. And consistent means, obviously, as it sounds, consistently implemented through everything with color, fonts, and everything like that. So, and that we'll see later. Lynn will get into the toolbox where a standards guide really makes all the difference. Now on to the pitfalls. Those are the 4 pillars. The 5 brand identity pitfalls. If you're considering a rebrand the following are mistakes that a lot of designers over the years we have seen make. So if you are considering working with a firm, make sure you look at their portfolio and their process for creating a brand identity. Because I've had people ask me, isn't a logo kind of a matter of opinion? No way. A logo, or better, a brand identity design is going to involve a process that's built on a solid understanding of your company, among other things, what you do and what really makes you unique. It is not a platform for anyone to be self-expressive. And it needs to follow proven principles of balance, contrast, form, and function, as we saw in the 4 pillars. And it should, above all, be created with a clear purpose in mind. So the following are the 5 pitfalls that designers or do-it-yourselfers even fall into most when creating companies' logos. And these underlying principles, you guys, are based on sound principles that have been true for decades. Okay, this isn't just my opinion. So pitfall number 1 is you're trying to say or do too much with the logo. Too many ideas or elements will kill a design and confuse. So you want to keep it simple, clean, and memorable. Here, form conflicts with function, and the message is lost. The temptation when you're creating an identity is you want to say a lot. You want it to be simple. You don't want to tell the whole story. So it should not create confusion, and trying to say too much creates confusion. Pitfall number 2 is kind of the flip side, being overly simple. You want your logo to be simple and clean, but it's got to be distinctive and memorable. Simple is powerful, but too simple is meaningless. A symbol, font, or shape with a unique nuance applied to it transforms it into something sophisticated and iconic. But that's not easy to do. Your brand deserves to be distinctive, and it needs to be remembered. So pitfall number 3 is too much detail. Super thin lines, fine details are going to kill a design and render it ineffective. complicated continuous tones, gradients, things along those lines like this, illustrative elements are going to be impossible to replicate in every media. It needs to be effective, as we just showed. If it can't be reproduced in a single color or reproduced in a variety of sizes and media, it's not going to look the same everywhere. It needs to look the same everywhere. It needs to be scalable and reproduced as big as a billboard or as small as a flash drive. And a logo may look cool online, but impossible to embroider on your shirts or cut out of vinyl on the wall, on your entry doors. So don't make this mistake. It'll lead to headaches down the road for sure. So design pitfall number 4 is using clip art or stock images. If you do use clip art, I promise you that you're going to meet up someday, and this has happened, with somebody who recognizes that your cool icon is from the Microsoft Image Gallery. You want your logo to be unique and one of a kind because your business is unique and it's one of a kind. It needs to look like it in the marketplace. You're proud of your business, so put pride into what you look like and don't put somebody else's face on it. Remember the 2 goals of branding Linda mentioned. Those are to build credibility and to be remembered. And this shortcut's going to drastically take a serious blow to both of those. So don't put a different face on your business. And then the last pitfall, and this is my favorite one, is the committing the capital offense. And you see this one all over the place. It's called the capital offense for a reason, because it's trite. It's not original. It's used, overly used, and it definitely conflicts with form and function. So this is where a logo, actually where you use the symbol as the first initial of the name. If you're going to do that, you want to do it properly. For instance, here,
Wait, Bill, can I interrupt just for a second? I just got to say, when you see these are all legit out there. So that first one, Center for Success, how we're trained is the symbol is separate from the business name. So people will read Enter for Success. Northern Electrical Testing is a local company. It just looks like it's unclear when it's on the truck and it's driving past quickly. Bill, I know you're going to talk about Ruth, but if you look at LR radio, you don't see the radio, you see ADO. So that is a huge problem, but you're going to see this everywhere. People commit this one, they think, oh, let's turn the first symbol. So now, Bill, that's where you're showing right now. You want that P to be the symbol, but here's how to fix it. Thanks.
It looks like Enter for Success. I mean, it's confusing. It can be confusing, and you do see this a lot. And hopefully after this, your eyes are going to be seeing. But that Pallet's Law is a way that somebody could render it. And I just did that as an example. This is actually a logo signature where the symbol works with the name. Now, if you want to integrate an icon into the name, you can do that. But a better way to do it is to bring it into the name, not use it as the initial cap or the capital. For instance, this Waitwell, we use the clock integrated into it. Modi, they do video, so that's integrated into the name itself. And you saw Turner. So Turner Electric, it's all woven in. Those are called word marks. That's for the name itself. FedEx, eBay, those are examples of that. So now I will stop sharing, Linda, and I'll hand it over to you. Thank you. See your face. There you go.
Well, as we been talking about times the logo is the face of their business, is making a solid impression on people. Oh.
You missed all the good things I just said because I muted myself. So we've been talking about your logo and the importance of making an impression. It's the face of your business. We want to now equip you. If you're out there looking, you're considering this, what to look for when you're working with an agency or a logo designer. Sometimes it's a freelancer, what you're going to want to have when you do your rebranding. Can you see this toolbar?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want you to see my toolbar.
It's at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, I know, I don't. All right, I'll move it this way. So as I mentioned, ICR is going to be our story that we're going to tell you, and the after, how ICR went through this transformation. That, as Bill mentioned, it's a process, and it's a fun process. It really helps companies and leadership teams change, make that transition. If you've been looking like this company for a long time, it's really hard to imagine changing your face, right? So it's a cool process that makes it easier to do. In this process, the first thing we do is, after that whole, what's important to you, how do we want to communicate, what symbols, it's not just about swishes and swirls, what symbols communicate, will help us communicate what's important, what differentiates you from your competitors. So when you're working with somebody, you want to see their ideas first in black and white, in positive, negative space. So this is just an example of a presentation of different logo concepts. And if you can see it in positive, negative space, you're going to avoid a lot of those pitfalls that Bill talked about. It's going to look great embroidered. It's going to look perfect if it's tiny on a flash drive or huge on a billboard. This process clears out a lot of those pitfalls that people can fall into. So make sure you're seeing it through a black and white presentation. The other part of it is that color is so subjective. We heard a story of a company that had just been thrown ideas with colors and samples, all the ideas, and it was just mayhem and confusion. So eliminate the color in this process. So if they show you color ideas, just, can you show these to me in black and white? What's going to look like in positive, negative space? So, and then also, what are changes? Find out what changes will involve. For us, we say unlimited changes because we never want you to feel stuck. This is the price you get, you agreed to, and we're going to make sure you're happy with it. So moving forward, once you've selected the symbol that you want, the logo idea, then move into color. And for ICR, they stayed with that maroon because the brand they had brand equity in that color. Once you've got that color, it's solidified. Now we want to show you what you're going to need in your toolbox, your brand identity toolbox. You could call it a kit, but we've been doing this since '93. We've been doing it with small to medium businesses, and we're going to show you what works, and it just keeps repeating. We've grown it throughout the years. This standards guide, as I mentioned before, if you've ever worked with a large company, they'll have a Bible on how to use that logo, huge, thick books. Well, we had a 7-page one when we started out, but people weren't using it. And we're going to get to how you really keep this consistent in your company. You need people to use it. So we have a single page, front and back, and this will show you the meaning and symbolism behind the logo, to share that with others, the logo orientations. So you can see, are you able to see my pointer here? You can see the logo orientations. You're going to need a horizontal and a vertical orientation. You don't want to pick your mug up and have to spin it around for people to read your logo because it's a horizontal view. You want that logo, a nice crisp one. If you're sponsoring an event or you're at a trade show, you give them this logo and say, please use the one that will present our company the best. Have you ever seen a sponsorship page and they use a horizontal logo and they had to shrink it down? You can barely read the company. That's not why you're sponsoring, right? You want to be seen. And then your color formulas. Everybody in the company will memorize this RGB. It's 119, 49, 65. Say it, 119, 49, 65. That's what goes on your Word docs. That's what's in your PowerPoint. That is our color. This is what we make sure everybody's got to have, that ink or thread on their shirts. And then you need a knockout. Just remember, getting back to that positive, negative, there are going to be times when you need just that symbol in one color, whether you have a company picnic and we've got t-shirts, orange, red, and green teams, and we just silk screen a white on that for our company logo, or we tell people if you're putting out pictures on social media and you took those and they're yours, you purchased those stock images or they're from your company, put that knockout as a watermark. That's your picture. Anybody can steal it from you. So make them have to Photoshop that out, make it difficult. And then the rules, what to do and what not to do with your logo. And then all of this should be in a standards guide with the file formats. You're going to need file formats depending on for your web development. There are all kinds of reasons, and a lot of places you're going to go either for the freelancer or a sign company for a logo. You'll have to go back. You'll be dependent on them if you don't have these file formats, and they're going to upcharge you for that. So you want to ask in the deliverables, what are the file formats I'm going to be getting? Also, you're going to want company stationery, whether you print it, and we think everybody should have it printed for an important, you never want to need an important letter and you're out of CMYK or out of cyan in your printer. And then that new us card, we referenced it earlier. When companies are afraid they won't recognize us, we have changed our face. This graphic reveal is a great way to put out momentum on your social media. It's also a great way to introduce the rebranding. And then when they open that card, Midway did this, and that's when they got that uptick in sales. A beautiful card that showed the building with the new signage. And it's not just, hey, we got a new logo, right? Who cares? You care, the designers care, nobody else cares. But here we got a rebranding because we want you to know this is what we do for you. This is why it matters to you. It's always customer is at the center. And then always having a digital one, a header and a footer that you can just pop into a Word document, the logo files for your invoices so that everything across the board is consistent. And that's where your chief brand officer comes in. Your chief brand officer polices the brand, the logo and how it's used, using that standards guide. You need to appoint somebody, deputize someone in your company, whether it's an in-house graphic designer, an admin, someone, it goes through them to make sure that the PowerPoints, the logos aren't being stretched or used, or someone's changing them up, or that a vendor actually used the correct font. We've seen really, Bill has saved at a sign company, we did a logo for a church, and there was a bridge, and the sign company stretched the bridge to fit into a rectangular sign, and Bill went to go check it out before they actually did it. It was like, no, don't stretch the logo on a sign for the church. So your chief brand officer is going to make sure that everything's done consistently. So here's ICR implementing their brand consistently. They had, we did a history walkthrough for their 25th anniversary of Prince walking down the wall of one of their locations to show how this company has grown. And wherever you are online, what your salespeople are selling. Next session 3, we're going to talk about digital sales tools and way to capture people that are visiting your website. Everywhere it's seen, this is a beautiful PowerPoint presentation in their headquarters. And then their symbol story. I want to just say quickly, their symbol story is the meaning behind it. When we asked one of their senior salespeople after the internal launch how it went, it was embroidered when I was talking to him on his shirt. And he said, oh, it was great. He put his hand over his heart over the embroidery. He said, now I know what we stand for. That's when Bill was talking about the leadership getting involved, because you get to communicate to your team and build that sustainability for your brand, the culture of your company. It really does attract talent when you've got a strong culture and people know what it means, what it stands for. Again, just consistently putting that out on social media. And then they've got their YouTube videos. Everything has that same feel. You can tell in a second, this is from ICR. And then their email campaigns, we're going to talk. I want to get you excited about session 3. We're going to talk with Jimmy Plow from Momentum. We're going to talk about websites, capturing leads on your websites. This is an example of building automations, which is not too complicated to make that investment in email nurture campaigns. Somebody visits your site and now you can follow through with email follow-up. It can be automatic. So I want to go through this quickly because of our time. And I apologize, we did not leave a ton for question and answers. Augie's, I'm going to just quickly share their story. Matt Bazell wants to give second opportunity chances to people who had fallen on hard times. He wants to help them shine from within. And so taking this simple story, the lowercase a, and then the commercial buildings shining from within and making their facilities shine. That's Augie's. And then they did a cool thing. We helped them build out their core values in a way that created that acronym for SHINE, their mission, their purpose, their vision, onboarding people. This is what we do here. That's circling back to the brand blueprint that we talked about in last session. All of these things come together to build a consistent brand that you can build a culture around. You can attract talent. You can also get the attention of prospects because you're different. You stand out. And right, we differentiate that as one of the key pieces of branding. So I wanted to also let you know, if you are looking at agencies, you're comparing, you can scan this QR code. It'll take you right to a form. We created this right fit checklist to save us some time so that people aren't calling going, what should we look for? It has all the questions you're going to ever want to ask a designer, an agency. It's just a good education. And then you'll be able to know, what am I getting and getting? What are the deliverables I'm getting? And if you need to do an RFQ, you can use that to frame your RFQ. So we are short, but we could take a couple questions if anyone has questions that they want to open up. If not, I have questions that people generally ask. Let me just throw this one out. One of the top questions we get is how Bill talked about having time to invest and the decision makers need to be available. If you're an accounting firm and you want to rebrand, you should not do it 2 months before tax time. You want to because it's a process, it's a creative process, and it has momentum. So you want to keep that momentum going and not have to stop, make decisions back and forth. So branding is there's science behind it, but it's not a cut and paste kind of thing. And whoever you talk to do the branding is going to have a different timeline. They're going to have a different process. So some might say 6 to 8 weeks, and some might say 3 to 6 months. So make sure you know what the project timeline is going to be. And then as far as cost, you can go to logosareus.com and find, but make sure you know what you're going to get. We get people coming to us who went to logosareus.com and what they're working with is hindering them. It's not working. So the cost, find out what is included in my cost in this time. And then the carry on, the implementation is another part. When we go to implement this, are you there to help us with it? Are we going to have everything we need to do that launch? So I'm going to just end with this thought of the Q&A. You've listened, you've signed up, you've registered for our webinar. We thank you for joining us, and we want you to feel free to call us. We'll spend 20 minutes, half hour, answering your questions, evaluating your logo, evaluating your messaging, your website, talk really openly with you, giving you our feedback. And then lastly, it's a gift to you. If you were at the last webinar, you saw it. This is our Ready Brand launch. We have it on Amazon for Kindle. We'll just give you the ebook as a gift for the book and the workbook. We have it available in print. If you say, oh, please send me the print version, we'll do that for you too as a gift. So that wraps up our webinar for the day. We will also be sending you a recording that you can listen to, and please reach back out to us with any questions. And we want to again thank the TMTA for this lunch and learn. Thank you, Joe Padula. Is there anything
Absolutely.
you want to say to your guests?
I just wanted to ask Anna Lee what company she was with, just trying to keep head count here.
Hi there. I'm with my own company, Anna Lee Wake Designs.
Okay.
So Annalie, I think you saw the promotion on social media.
I did, and I've been following you guys for quite some time. So it's I don't need a new logo, honestly, but it's just such good information to know when I do. So thank you.
Excellent. And even if you don't, just implementing that, more around that and implementing it fully into everything that you do. So Annalee, it's great to have you join us. And another, we talked about this last time about being present on social. It's your 327, 327, no, 720, 24/7, 365 trade show. All right, we're going to sign off. We're going to stop recording and thank everybody for joining us.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
guys.
All right,
Thank you.
bye-bye.